everybody, welcome back. My name's Katie Faye, and this is a chicken pot pie, except instead of using pie crust, I used 2-ingredient biscuit dough to save a few points. And let me tell you, I don't think I'll ever eat regular chicken pot pie again. This was delicious. So I'm starting off by cooking my chicken. I'm using 3 large chicken breasts, and I actually only ended up using 2 after I got it shredded. But I'm cooking 3 large chicken breasts in the oven on 400 degrees for 20 minutes, and then you flip it after 10 minutes. And I'm seasoning that chicken with salt, pepper, garlic powder, onion powder, and parsley. Then I realized the chicken breasts were a little thick, so I used the mallet to make it cook faster. Ideally, you'll want to do that before you put it in the glass baking dish, but it is what it is. Now, while that chicken started cooking, I did go ahead and work on the biscuit dough. This biscuit dough is so easy to make. It is 1 cup self-rising flour and 2/3 cup non-fat plain Greek yogurt. And then you mix it together and voila, you have biscuit dough. Now, I will say, in this case, that works perfectly fine because there's a ton of flavor in the pot pie filling, so you don't really need any extra on the biscuit. But if you are making this as just plain biscuits, which you absolutely can and should do, it can be a little bland. So if I'm making it as just biscuits, I'll freeze a tablespoon or 2 of butter and then grate that. Add the grated frozen butter into the biscuits, and then as they cook, that butter melts into little flakes and you get buttery goodness throughout the biscuit, so it's a lot less bland that way. But again, in this case, we got lots of flavor on the bottom of the biscuits, so we're saving points by not adding the butter. Now, I did mix this as best I could with a spatula, but there's no way around it. You just got to get your hand in there and get it mixed. Yes, it's sticky at first. However, as the dough becomes done, it is a lot less sticky and a lot easier to work with. So there is a silver lining. Just get your hand messy. It's the best way to do it. And then I made this super early in the process. You totally don't have to do this. It's self-rising flour, so it doesn't have to rise or proof or anything like that. I just had a moment while I was cooking to make it early, so that's what I did. The next thing I prepped is the onion for this recipe. I used 1 full yellow onion and I chopped it up in the OXO chopper that my husband bought me for my birthday. Now, this OXO chopper, I love it so much. And let me tell you, this onion was a little bit strong. Like, I cut the butt off and started peeling it and I was starting to get a little teary-eyed. But that's all the chopping I had to do. I just cut it in half one more time and then put it in this chopper. And guess what? No tears. It was the easiest onion prep I've ever done. Now, if you're going to use fresh garlic for your pot pie, you would also want to go ahead and prep this now too. But I used already pre-minced garlic from the grocery store because it's easy and I'm lazy and it tastes just as good once you get it cooked into the recipe. All right, now that is pretty much all of the prep work we need to do, and it is time to start making this pot pie. So the first thing I'm going to do is get my cast iron skillet and add a tablespoon of butter into the skillet until that butter melts. At that point, my chicken was done, so I took it out of the oven and started shredding the first breast. The easiest way to shred chicken breast is to put it into a bowl and then use a hand mixer to shred it. Yes, I used the stick of butter as a microphone and I was dancing because I'm listening to Britney Spears. And I challenge you to cook in your kitchen while listening to Britney Spears and not sing and dance along. Anyway, so once you make quick work of shredding the first chicken breast, my butter was almost melted. So at that point, I stopped and added in the garlic until it became fragrant. And then I added in the onions to cook. Now you're going to cook the onions until they are translucent. However, while they are cooking, that is when I shredded my second of the 3 chicken breasts. And then once I shredded my second chicken breast, I realized that's all the chicken I was going to need. It was about 2.5 cups of shredded chicken. And again, if you don't want to cook your own chicken, feel free. Use a rotisserie chicken. Use whatever shredded chicken you can get. I think you can buy it pre-shredded at the store. So that is what I did there. And then I had a third chicken breast left over, so I went ahead and shredded that, and I'll use that in recipes later this week. Now, for after the onions were translucent, I added in a bag of frozen vegetables. This had peas, carrots, and corn in it. And then you cook that until the vegetables are warm. Then you add the chicken in, cook all of that together for a little bit. And then I seasoned the whole thing with the same 5 seasonings I used on the chicken breast, which were salt, pepper, garlic powder, onion powder, and dried parsley. And then you can tell I'm continuing to add it to Weight Watchers. I'm just using the build a recipe tool so that I know how many points it is. So there goes the chicken. And after I add in the seasoning, it's time to add in the chicken gravy. I use an entire jar of Heinz chicken gravy, home-style chicken gravy to be exact, and it tastes so good in this recipe. So add that jar in, and then after I add that to the pan, I add about 3 tablespoons of water to the jar, shake it up, and then add it back to the pan so that it has gets all of the gravy goodness into the skillet. And the last ingredient for the filling is going to be a couple tablespoons of Parmesan cheese, and then you're going to want to mix that in and let this simmer. Now for mine, since I'm using a cast iron skillet, I just turn the heat off because that skillet's going to keep the warmth, and it's going to continue to simmer while I am working on the dough. And the last step is to go ahead and get the biscuit dough ready. So the first part of that is cleaning off the counter. I put a label on my chicken so that we know what day I made it and what day we need to eat it by. And then I cleaned off the counter before flouring it, adding the dough to the flour pile, and then flouring the top of the dough so that it doesn't stick to my rolling pin when I roll it out. Now I did roll my dough out super thin at first, and then once I had it rolled out all thin, I used the casserole dish that I'm going to add the filling to kind of get an idea of what size I needed it to be. Now I did notice that my pot pie filling was starting to stick to the pan, so I went ahead and added it to the casserole dish at this point too, just so that it wouldn't burn or stick or anything like that. Now, the reason I started by rolling it out super thin and then folding it and rolling it out again at the thickness I needed was so that this would create layers in my dough and make my biscuits super flaky. And I have to say, it worked. So again, I'm using the lid of that casserole dish just to make sure I have about the right size of dough that I need. And then I cut them into strips and then cut those strips into little chunks and added them to the top of the casserole dish. And by the way, this little casserole dish from Shop Disney with Mickey Mouse head and the gingerbread men on the sides are super cute. And after admiring how cute my casserole dish is, I did a egg whitewash on the top of the biscuits so that they come out super golden and crispy, and oh my gosh, did it pay off. So to do that, you just get an egg white, add a little bit of water, mix it up, add it to the top of the biscuits, and then once the biscuits are moistened by the egg whitewash, then you can add some more salt on top. I just did fresh ground sea salt because that's what I had, but if you are fancy enough to have finishing salt on hand, this would be a great application of that. And oh my gosh, look at how perfectly golden brown that was after 30 minutes in the oven on 350. And then I hit the top while it was hot with some, I can't believe it's not butter spray because that's 0 points. And it was delicious. Now, the first time I make any recipe in the Weight Watchers app, I do go ahead and put all of the servings into different containers so that I know exactly how many servings there are. That way I know that my tracking is accurate. And these biscuits were so crispy that I actually had to cut the top of it. And I'm not saying this because this is like the diet option and I want to believe this. I am genuinely saying I like this version of pot pie a lot better than just regular pie crust, which is what I typically use. The biscuits were super crispy on top. They definitely helped, like you had a little biscuit to clean your bowl after you were finished eating. And they were like dumpling texture on the bottom, so it's kind of like chicken dumplings, and chicken pot pie had a baby, and this is the result. And oh my goodness, it was just so tasty. I highly recommend this recipe. 10 out of 10. Please try it. All right, so this looks amazing. The little pieces I had eaten as I was filling up these containers tasted amazing. It made 5 servings total, which made it a total of 6 points. And you can see here, I just created it as a recipe. It helps that there's a lot of zero, that's not cornmeal, hold on. Hey, so I'm sitting here editing the video for the chicken pot pie and realized that I didn't film a ending clip. So I fixed the cornmeal to say self-rising flour. It was still 6 points for the chicken pot pie. It tasted so amazing. I think this is gonna be a new favorite of ours to have at least once or twice a month. We took some to my mother-in-law. She also loved it too. So yeah, I definitely hope you guys try it. If you do, let me know how you liked it in the comments below. And if you like this video, please click that thumbs up button. And if you want to see more videos like this, please subscribe. Okay, bye!